Am I annoyed that we're almost near the end of May and yet still we haven't heard about the partnership announcement that the CEO said was going to happen before the end of this month? Am I annoyed with that basically? Well, the short answer is no. And it may seem kind of bizarre, but I'll explain my rationale in today's video, even though nothing I say is financial advice and even though I am not telling anyone to do anything. Well, first of all, if we take a look at partnerships, usually, sometimes we don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. Just to clarify, to give a background story, near the end of this month, we're actually supposed to hear about a large bank in Europe announcing a partnership with Zebec. That's per the CEO of Zebec himself, Simon, who said that that was going to happen. But we haven't seen it yet. Now, there's a bunch of possibilities as to why this could be, but again, usually these massive partnerships, they could take quite a while to really formulate and finalize. But the fact that the CEO even talked about near the end of this month, a lot of people said, why make that quote unquote promise, right? Why make that statement anyways if it's not going to be happening? Well, first of all, we're not at the end of May yet, right? We haven't basically went over to June, but if they don't announce it in like basically a day from now or whatever, or 2 days, then, they're probably not going to announce it in May, which again, a lot of people like to ask me, am I annoyed when it comes to that? Well, no, because a lot of these CEOs, when it comes to these projects, sometimes when they say things, it could be a little bit optimistic at times, right? In which case, we don't really know sometimes what's going on behind the scenes. And maybe there's hiccups along the way. Maybe it wasn't over optimistic. Maybe he thought that things were going to go smoothly and then suddenly something happened. We just don't know. So long story short, I'm not annoyed, but at the same time, I'm not worried either, because a large bank in Europe having a partnership with Zebec, that would be so fantastic, especially considering how that partnership is going to be using, or should I say utilizing, the Stellar and Zebec partnership, which is going to mark the first ever time it's going to be utilized. So that right there, in and of itself, whether or not they announce it in May, we'll have to wait and see. But if maybe they announce it in June or July, or maybe August, or whatever the case may be, it doesn't really matter as long as it's actually a good quality partnership. In which case it probably will, because we take a look at how it's a large bank in Europe that's going to be announcing this. We don't know what bank it is yet. There's no mention about this, but still, as of right now, just from what I can visualize in regards to that partnership, it could be so special if they actually do it. But we'll have to wait and see. Now, people like to wonder, okay, what kind of issues could they have encountered along the way to kind of have this delayed announcement? Well, maybe they're dealing with something in regard to the MICA in Europe. We just don't know. Now, we do know that Zebec actually has an aspect of MICA, which is really impressive, by the way, but we just don't really know what's going on there, because keep in mind, this is considering, I'm assuming, right, a traditional bank, maybe in Europe, and then if they want to have a partnership with Zebec, maybe there is a speed bump there in regard to MICA along the way. We just don't know, or maybe some regulatory things have to be, solved. We just really don't know, right? So when I take a look at that right there, no matter when they announce it, I'm still happy regardless, because this can't be said with a bunch of other projects out there. A lot of other projects out there say that they're going to be announcing this, announcing that, but they never really do it. Zebec, I can't fault them too much when it comes to this one, especially because they kept their word, right, in regard to kind of giving a teaser in regard to maybe a Ripple partnership announcement, but then we saw that. And then we also saw the Stellar partnership. We also saw the Algorand partnership. So if maybe they're having a speed bump here in regard to the bank in Europe, you know what? It's forgivable for me. At least that's the way I view it, because it's not like they have a track record of lying, right? I mean, if that was the case, then okay, I'll be very upset. I probably wouldn't even want to believe in the project anymore. But at the same time, this speed bump right here doesn't really concern me as much as some other projects out there that don't even have a historical track record anyways of even doing anything. So when I take a look at Zebec, again, at least they have an aspect of MICA, at least they have an aspect of SOC2 and ISO 20022. So I can't really complain too much in my opinion. But nonetheless, a big point of contention, like a big point of concern currently, is how ZBCN is down almost 5% in the past 24 hours, whereas just 24 hours before that, there was a pretty okay recovery. So people like to say, oh wow, what's really going on? Well, the thing is this, within this space, like a 5, 10, or 15% movement in 24 hours, especially for an altcoin of this size, it's not unheard of, right? It's not so overblown like that. If let's say other markets out there, like let's say the S&P 500, if it moved like 30% or 20% in a day, a lot of people would be like, oh wow, like it'd be so, I guess, monumental for some people. But within this space, it's a little bit different. So it's just a different market. Things in this space, it can move kind of quickly in either direction, up or down, right? But that's kind of the thing about it. You know what I mean? It's like, for instance, if people eat chilies, and I'm not talking about Chili's the restaurant, right? I'm talking about like an actual chili, like the spicy one. They eat it primarily sometimes for the spice, for like the sensation of it being spicy. In this space, it's a little bit kind of like eating chilies. It's kind of like eating, jalapenos or a habanero pepper, right? There's that distinct flavor, but sometimes people do look for that. When it comes to the S&P 500, it's like mayonnaise. It's tested, it's been around for quite a while. It's very neutral, right? A lot of people do like it. This space, it's kind of like, that habanero pepper, kind of a little bit of that jalapeno. It's a little bit of a different flavor. That's the thing. But there are people who like both, right? Some people also might just prefer one or the other. But personally, for me, I'm a fan of this space. I don't mind because I kind of expected that anyways. It's like, for instance, if I want to eat chilies, and again, not the restaurant, like an actual chili, my intent is because I want to eat something that's spicy. Now, I don't eat spicy food anyways, but I'm just saying in a random make-believe scenario, then that would be my intent, right? So I can't complain if it's spicy later, which is why I don't eat chilies. But that's the thing. But when it comes to this space, it's a little bit different, right? Again, things are kind of volatile sometimes, but that's kind of part of the market, especially when it comes to this one. However, personally for me understanding that, basically, what I do know is that it's going to be pretty much almost impossible for me to know what's going to happen in a couple hours, in a couple of days, in a couple of weeks. There's just no way. The market is just way too volatile when it comes to this one, especially when it comes to altcoins. But at the same time, one thing I do know though is that I'm looking at this more so for a long-term mindset. So I don't mind this actually, because I'm not looking to exit or enter. I'm not a trader. That's the thing. I'm not trying to do things on a daily basis. That's not my style. That's not what I do. Because I'd rather focus on the fundamentals, hold, and just wait. That's it. Some people out there ask me why I like the dip. The thing is this. When it comes to gold, a lot of people like the dip, right? I view it no different here. Now, if we take a look at it just from a fundamental standpoint of view, they're both assets at the end of the day. It's just one is physical, the other one is digital. So I kind of view it the same way. So if I take a look at gold and I like the dip when it comes to that, I kind of view it no different here, even though I'm not telling anyone to do anything. Now, again, this is just my personal perspective, but at the same time, sure, I can't physically hold any Zebec, right? I can't hold it in my hand. I can with gold, but it's just different. At the end of the day, if they're both assets, why does it really matter if either or has the dip? If I like the dip, then I'll like it. You know what I mean? Doesn't matter if it's physical or digital. Sometimes kind of my mindset is that. However, at the same time as well, if we truly think about it, like let's say in a year's time or in 2 years' time, will this slight 5% decrease in the past 24 hours, would that even be something people care about? Will people take a look back at this time and be like, oh wow, I can't believe that dip happened? Like, not really. You know what I mean? Like, this is such a small movement at the end of the day, but it's overblown, right? At the time that it happened, which is, of course, right now. But if we consider a year or 2 years later, this is all going to be background noise. So instead, I dollar cost average every approximately 30 days, and I just wait it out. That's it. I mean, I don't know how long I'm going to have to wait, of course, but I just wait it out. Either it takes a year, 2 years, 3 years, I don't know, but I'm willing to wait. That's the thing. I'm in here for the long run, right? I'm in here for the long haul. I treat it like a marathon. It's not a sprint for me. But in the meantime, though, am I annoyed that we haven't heard about that large bank in Europe in terms of an announcement in regard to a partnership with that when it comes to Zebec? No, I'm not annoyed, because my perspective is that delays, sometimes they do happen, but at least the intent is there. At least the thought is there, right? So as long as the mindset is there, as long as there's even a conversation about that, I think it's kind of like the thought that counts. So I don't mind. I'd rather have them wait a little bit and do it right as opposed to rush it and have it become wrong, if that makes sense, or become bad. So I don't mind, but I'm willing to wait. But nonetheless, I just wanted to make this video to address that because some people out there are very concerned that Zebec basically hasn't, kind of talked about that partnership yet, and also that alleged European bank hasn't made a post about a partnership when it comes to Zebec. Again, some people are alarmed when it comes to that because they thought it was going to happen basically at the end of May, which is actually allegedly supposed to be the case as what Simon, the CEO of Zebec, said, but we just haven't seen it as of right now. Now, granted, we're not in June yet, but I'm saying because we're so close to June, a lot of people were kind of upset about this, and they asked me if I was annoyed, but the answer is no, so I wanted to respond to that. However, I just want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a very nice day.